All right, welcome back to the show, everybody. We got Matt Tack with special guest Jeremy Vanderloop today. These guys are live in Tampa. How you doing, boys?
Doing great.
Wonderful. I'm going to cue in the intro, and these guys are going to take it away, fly you through galactic personal development. Boom, back in the mix. Take it over, boys.
Back in the mix, man. Yeah, no, excited today to have Jeremy Vanderloop, international recording artist, and then real estate developer. So we connected actually more on the real estate front. And we're just building and cultivating a relationship. Have known each other for a little while now. What do you think? 4 or 5 months? Maybe a little longer?
Yeah, and then we met few years ago.
Yeah, so random at a sandwich shop in Tampa. It's no longer there. It was called Mikey's. We love it. R.I.P. Mikey's. Yeah, we miss you. Hopefully they come back to the hood sometime.
They're supposed to, but I don't think that's going to happen.
Oh man. But phenomenal sandwiches. I remember Jeremy from there. We connected actually. We're part of a Christian Men business organization that we connected with, a networking group that was like really random too. We just had gone to an event. I'm like, dude, I think I have met you, and I think I reached out to you. Pretty sure you're in real estate. Said he was in real estate. He is now a real estate developer, an awesome man of God, and one that a relationship that we're just building, and we're constantly keeping each other accountable and credible for our improvement within. Not only our daily lives, but the way we just love our wives, the way we parent our children, and then the way we run our businesses. So we're very vulnerable and transparent with one another on ways we can get better. And so excited to have him on the show today. Kind of like brought it to him last minute. Was over here talking to him. So it's been pretty cool stuff. But that's the way I roll. That's the way I roll on the fly. But Jeremy, man, could you just tell the people a little bit about this? Is probably their lunch break when people are listening. We might have a couple questions popping through, so feel free to throw some questions at us, both on the music front. I don't know a lot about music, but this guy does. And then on the real estate development opportunity, he's always educating me on some really cool stuff as far as past history on him. He does new construction builds and actually does rehabs as well. Can you just give us a backstory of maybe, how did you get into the game, right? So you originally into the real estate game, and then also that segue that you took into the music career, and now on the outside of that, going back into the real estate game. So tell the people a little bit about that journey.
Yeah, so it'll be 4 years in September. I was on tour, and I was hanging out in actually Minnesota. And just realized, where life was going, and kind of was really self-evaluating my career. And I was very happy and enjoying the trajectory of life and how things were looking as an artist and writer. But then my wife was pregnant, and so I thought, I want to be home more. I want to stay home more with the kids. The family was real important to me. And where I thought we may be going, things were going to change significantly, where the families got to stay home more, because at that point in time they traveled with me almost everywhere we went, about 120 shows a year, 130 shows a year all across the country. So I got into just kind of jumped feet first into real estate. I had a killer mentor that had already been mentoring me for a few years. I didn't realize was also in real estate, and I really how it all started. We bought our first house, and my wife really enjoyed the progress and the process of buying. And my brain just works like an entrepreneur, and so I just kind of dove in head first. Would buy my own personal house in like 2014, 2015. and just really fell in love with it and was writing, I started writing formulas and doing all this stuff without anybody teaching me how to do it, and just kind of learned the process. And our realtor at the time said, man, you could definitely do well in real estate if you ever thought about getting into it. And I said, well, I probably won't do that, but thanks for the encouragement. And my wife, fast forward, my wife, she's a stay-at-home mom, but she just loved the idea of selling people homes. And so she actually went to go get a real estate license. I did what every entrepreneur does. And that was like, well, I'll just see if I can create some leads for you. Maybe, and I know a contractor and I know another guy who wants to get in real estate. Maybe I'll just like pair them together and start a company but have you be the listing agent of that company. And that kind of imploded, just wasn't the right fit. And so fast forward, 5 months later, I'm in Minnesota and just really trying to think through. And I knew at that point in time, there were two things in life that made the world go around. That was advertising and real estate. And so I was looking at starting an advertising company, but then I also didn't want to leave real estate on the sidelines either. And so I got home from that run, and I met with my friend and business partner of that company. He was a contractor with 30 years experience, and told him what I was thinking about doing and invited him along. And next thing you know, we formed a partnership and we were off to the races. We started building houses together in that next year. And it was crazy. We've had battles, ups and downs, and just, yeah, I've got my PhD, I think, in hard knocks.
Don't we all? That's amazing.
So then the music industry though. How'd I get into that? Right?
Yeah. Build onto that a little bit. That's always,
so I was.
This isn't just about real estate. This is about personal development, what that looks like, and how you can scale even in the music world.
Yeah. For me, I was a young kid. I lived in Mozambique, Africa, when I was 18 years old with 300 orphans, and loved that. I thought that's what I was going to do my whole life, was just kind of serve the poor and help the fatherless. And I have faith. And so I was praying, I was talking, and I just felt this unction that I wasn't supposed to do that. I was supposed to do music instead. Now, I wasn't very happy with that, but I stepped out. I was actually getting into real estate when I was 19. And that was around 2007, 2008. I had an opportunity to really get in on a ground level that made a lot of people a lot of money within real estate, within the fallout. And just didn't feel like I had the character to maintain the revenue at 18, 19 that potentially was coming, that major transfer of wealth. And so I felt, for lack of better terms, called to go pursue the arts and the creative and the music. And so I was able to do 8 records in my career, and I started as an independent artist, and I'm still going technically. I mean, I haven't hung it up yet, so I might be doing another release soon. We're going back and forth on if we want to pick that up or not, or lay it down entirely. But I was 20 years old and I stepped out, and I made $2,000 the first year, full time, $2,000. Yeah, I positioned myself, awesome. And I had my cell phone bill. That's all I had. I moved back into my mom's house, and man, and then the next year it started moving there. We doubled. We did 4,000 the second year, and awesome. It just started really, really. And I was doing anything I could do. I started giving like guitar lessons. I would go to garage sales and pick up these busted guitars, pick them up for like $15 and like repair them and just fix them up or whatever. Yeah. I'd sell them for like 100, 120, and that's amazing. Just like I was constantly just trying to just stay alive. To pursue this dream. And I started learning things, and I started just learning, and it was all relationship based. And that's where I started really learning the power of relationships, the power of that currency. That I have this thing I do when I'm helping guys and coaching guys. Is your greatest currency in the world is relationships, and the greatest resource is time. And awesome. So I started walking in that, and man, I remember I'd sit at Starbucks, like it was like my 3rd year in, met my wife, we were getting married, like we literally like just rags to like wherever we're at now. And it was like, I've made just shy of $17,000 gross the year that we got married. It was insane. And but it was like, I remember I went to Starbucks, the one right here in Tampa, right here by your house. Yeah. And that was like, I went there because it was free Wi-Fi and free water. So I was just water there? The free water is the best water. It's filtered water like 3 or 4 times. And I said, I like some water. I'd just sit there with my laptop, and I was that guy. and they didn't mind, and that's why I like their model, because now we spend way too much money there now. But it was that was my thing, is every day for like 8 to 10 hours every day at Starbucks, just like, and I learned to build booking logs and do all these things, and I was just making phone calls and just follow-ups and just constantly and I've learned it's a principle. It's that same principle that whether you learn it in the music industry, you learn it in real estate, you learn it in any aspect. It's the principle of the follow-up. It's the principle of the diligent and pursuing. And so then it started growing. It just started, well, like anything would do, hard work and diligence, and it never comes back void. You just keep going, and every time you hit a wall, you shift and you move, and we were able to build it where it was sustaining. We had a 50-foot rig that we toured with, and I mean it was fantastic, managements and booking agents and all that stuff, and just it was we didn't have to quit when we kind of started slowing it down. So it really was doing well, and had a lot of great friends, and I was able to, like I said, tour across the country, I don't know, 4 or 5 times a year, and then so it didn't segue back into real estate. So now we're here and taking those same principles of just grassroots entrepreneur drive and you just resilience and taking a hard pivot now, right? So that's what I've been doing the last couple months. I mean, we spoke. I spent a month in Nevada during all this, and we went out, did a night stay, a local staycation, and it's just been reflection, a season of reflection. And for guys like me and you, I just want to be moving. I want to be doing something, and so I'm trying to get that energy and move it in to some place that's not going to harm me, because it's not the time to be taking major risks right now. And so that's as a young guy who's going through his first real cycle, that I've been hearing about for so many years. And thank God for good mentors. I mean, that let me set myself up, dude, for good mentors. They kept warning me and telling me, and by the grace of God, we were we got everything got cleared out, man, by February, and then things hit the fan in March. So that was, we could be in a lot worse place right now, I think, if I had a lot of deals out at the moment. So I don't know if I answered that correctly.
You answered a lot, man. You did good. You put 2 big things in here that I talk about a lot, is the power of the follow-up. We call it Follow-Up Friday. Following up on your relationships, stay consistent with those relationships that are going to bleed some really good stuff into your life. Mainly positivity is obviously what I look like: encouragement, accountability, vulnerability, but really trying to progress yourself forward, or being in a constant state of growth. And then reflection, right? John Maxwell puts it, the dumbest guy in the room, yet the world says would be the smartest guy in the room, is the guy that gets punched and he gets knocked down, he gets right back up again. And the guy that gets punched and he gets knocked down, he gets right back up again. We would say, oh, what a smart guy. Like, he just has a lot of persistence and tenacity about him. But what John Maxwell says, how about you get punched and you stay down for a little while until you figure out why you got knocked down. And then when you figure out why you get knocked down, you get back up and you're twice the better person than when you were when you fell down. So he said, I love how he puts that, because you're going to get knocked down in life, right? You're going to get punches. I got punched yesterday. I got some guys weren't operating within the core values of what I thought should be operating within my company. Fortunately, I didn't even have to make the split, but sometimes you do have to make those decisions, right? But then how do I learn from that? I got knocked down. What can I do from better? And I think that that's what I was talking about. Documentation, really creating that level of organization. But thanks for all that input, man. That's cool. I love Jeremy's story. I think it's incredible. Kind of where he's seen like different pivots. I'm a spiritual guy. I know everyone probably that listens in aren't spiritual, but I like how Jeremy has taken really a divine direction on really when his pivots are. He's being humble and abides in the Lord, and really makes sure that, hey, if this is the time and this is the calling to make this pivot, this is when he's going to do it. So I guess, a follow-up question to that, when would you say was the right timing to make the pivot, right? You'd said, number one, when you're in Africa, right? Yeah. And that had to have been an abiding state, because you thought you were there for a purpose, and right, and albeit a great purpose, but you had to leave a family then because you were being called in a different direction. There was an abiding purpose to that. then falling out of not falling out, but like taking a different pivot, specifically within the music industry. Like, what is the mindset there that takes you in that pivot, that small little that where it might be a major pivot, might be a minor, but what was the mindset there?
For me, in my worldview, it's based on real surrender and obedience. It's all about the why, your motive of why you're living, why you're breathing, what you're doing. And my time at, in Africa when I was 18 years old, I remember, man, I traveled by myself across the world and was exposed to some crazy things. Almost died like 2 times, 3, I don't know. It was pretty crazy. And it was just hanging out with the poorest people in the world. Man, it changes how your mind works. You realize how valuable life is. And I learned so much from those people. And I mean, I had a Mozambican in my wedding as a groomsman, and just culture. And I've taken my wife there, and we've got friends all over the world. And so for me, that was my desire, was to help the orphans my entire life. And that's what we've continually done, and we continually do. It just shapes differently. But those pivots, I think everyone has to have their own unique approach to it. But my approach, man, is just getting really still and silent, and just being aware of my surroundings, not being so caught up in what I desire and my drive and where I'm going, but really taking this, like I said, to this surrendered approach. And my faith really has a big play in that. My worldview and my belief is that my friend and my God, who I get to spend time with, knows what tomorrow holds. And so my lowest risk ratio is really obedience to him. So if I feel this impression that, hey, you know what, I'm going to go with my gut on this, I don't trust this, even if it makes sense mathematically, or this, all the numbers make sense, but it's you just start living the standard, and that's the secret sauce of it. Is I feel like once I start noticing there's a shift, there's a seasonal shift coming, I really slow down and pause and begin to try to build time in my schedule to ponder and to think through, and to really, and just be okay that I may not know what tomorrow holds. And I may have one thing where I think it's going to be this direction. And it could be, I got so many stories that even like confirms this, but it's like, even today we're talking about, do we sell our house? Do we rent our house? Because we're getting ready to build a new house. The family's growing. And it's just, I've been on sell. And I go, well, all right, let me just pause and think through. I'm going to use my brain. I'm going to use my heart. I'm going to have faith and try to see, think through this critically. Well, what is the interest rates are so low, the variables change now, so it's also knowing your variables, knowing all your, and then, where logic fails, faith prevails. So you're always trying to logically figure out where your jump is and your jumping point, your launching point is, and then you just jump. Sooner or later, it's your faith activates. And for me, I've come down to that conclusion. Am I going to have faith in myself and my own abilities, or I'm going to have faith in a God who loves me and who wants to, and that's my motivator, and then out of that stems everything, inspiring my kids and my wife and my friends. And that motivates my character, my integrity, and everything, and motivates all of it. And it's, I've given up a lot of money to that. I have this saying, and the numbers just keep growing. And that saying is, my character is worth more than X. And it's got like a dollar number on it. And when I first started, it was like my character was more than $5. And then it's like, now I think that number has grown up to my character is worth more than 100,000 or something. It's like what we've like laid down. And it's broken people, man. Their brokenness just seems to infect you sometimes. And I think some of the greatest heartache of some of these forced pivots is other people's lack of integrity and lack of character. And because you're character tested when you make a mistake, or or when there's a conflict or a crisis. That's how you know what you're made of, is in the crisis. And I've realized to maintain my character and my integrity, it's not dictated by someone else's lack of. So it's like in the middle of a crisis, my word is still my word. My character is still my character, no matter anyone else's downfalls. That's not my standard. I don't hold myself against that standard. And so that's how it's a long answer, man. It's a good question. How do you approach these pivots? And because it's so circumstantial. It is. It's not black and white, man. Life is full of these just unknown up and down perspectives that you just have to keep fighting.
two things, you were throwing some gems out there, and two things that I was just thinking of that were, I think, incredible, that have assisted in kind of part of my entrepreneurship progression is one of them. I read this book, 48 Days to the Work You Love. And one thing that I actually pulled out of that 48 Days to the Work You Love was one of his decision-making mechanisms was nothing goes over 2 weeks. So he actually looks at whatever he needs to make a decision on. And then he puts it could be like moving across the country, moving to Africa, whatever it might be. But he'll put a finite period of time on that. And boom, it's like it's done, it's set in stone. So really, that's what I was thinking. When you're making these pivots, it seemed like you obviously make that you abide in the process, and then you're comfortable with it. But then once a decition made, it's made. You just make it. You don't wait. You roll with it. Yeah. And that's huge. I know that. My buddy Mark Evans, DM. I love the way he puts it. But there's no plan B. There's no plan B. You just make the plan A approach and then roll with it. But it's when you know that you made the correct choice, it's you roll, and God's hands is in the mix.
Yeah,
right?
I would say there's a plan B. So plan B is our plan A.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Because plan A is whatever God has in store for you.
That's right.
Whether you like it or not, and he's going to make all things work together.
Yeah.
For good for those that love him.
Absolutely.
And are called according to his purposes. So his plan is always plan A, and I kind of rest in that, and unapologetically, to be honest with you.
Love it.
Yeah.
Love it. Craig Rochelle, he's a leader. Leader of leaders that I listen to as well. But one thing you had mentioned is what is your integrity worth, or what is your character worth, and you put a dollar amount on that. And what I love about there's a saying that he says at the end: a leader, people are willing to follow a leader, not that that's always real, not that's always right. It's that was pretty powerful to me. He might have put different ways. I mess up some of those sometimes. My dyslexia apparently, but. The one thing that he's about that is that if you're real and you set the expectations, you're real. I'm not going to be always right, and when I'm not right, I will come say, and I'll be vulnerable to you that I'm not right. I'm real, and I might make a wrong decision. I might make a decision that honestly that I just have to come to the forefront on and said, hey, I messed up. Like I messed up big time. This wasn't the right decision. This wasn't the alignment of where we're going, our core values or whatever it might be. But how do I get better from it, right? And I'm willing to fess up to that. I was even just thinking about Alex Rodriguez. I did a short little podcast on him, but he'll tell you this day, like I made a wrong decision. Like it was a wrong decision. How am I now going to get better from that? Yeah. People are going to hold it against me, but those are the people I'm not going to surround myself with, right? I got to move forward. I got to make the baby step forward. Mistakes happen. And how do we move forward from that? So you just got to be always real. Now you're not going to be always right.
I got a funny story on that, right? So I'm trying to teach my kids this thing about, hey, mistakes, they happen and the missed opportunities are there. And so I'm sitting there, I'm trying to, motivate my kids. And man, it's if you've learned unhealthy habits during this time of crisis, it's going to make you worse than you were going. If you learn healthy habits, it's going to make you better coming out of it. Right. And so I'm trying to create healthy habits. And my kids, man, I got 3 kids, and my oldest is 6.5. Yeah. And she's sharp, dude. She is on it. She knows I'll say, I'll give you $1 to do this, and she's on it all. And she's just like she's very entrepreneur, man. No, she just understands the value of it because I'm teaching her the value of it. I'm trying to get her away from the money motivation. Yeah. And so I'm reading the story in the Bible to her, right? It was about Jesus going back to his hometown, and it was he was going back to Nazareth, where none of them wanted to. They all thought they were tables or they're installing windows or building their houses or whatever. It was a carpenter's son, Yeah. And so I'm reading this story, and my kids are just man, they're screaming at each other. They're just no one's paying attention. Not even my 6-year-old isn't paying attention. My 3-year-old definitely isn't. My 1-year-old is the only one doing what he's supposed to do, and that's just being a 1-year-old doing something, putting something in his mouth, right? So it's I'm not thinking, but these 2 kids, I'm trying to get them to pay attention. And so I finished the story. I just read like they were paying attention. And at the end of the story, I said, I'll give you $1,000 if right now and a trip to Disney World if you can tell me your favorite thing about that story. And she goes, oh, I wasn't listening. and I was serious. $1,000 on a trip to Disney World when it opens up. And Because I knew for me, I knew that bet the principal was trying to put in that. I knew that she wasn't gonna be an answer because there's no way that she could listen like that ever. What she was doing, she was ignoring everything I was saying.
Yeah.
And so she like, oh no. So she tries just thinking of something. I go, you weren't listening. She goes, I'll listen now. So I read it again, and she's under this like expectation that she's gonna, now that she's listening the second time, that she's gonna get $1,000 in that trip to Disney. And I go, well, what did you think of that story? And she still was like trying to figure. And then finally she started, oh, I really like this, and now that's good, that's awesome. And then she looks at me and she's like, well, what about? I said, well, no, that was for the first time listening. You missed that. Yeah. You missed the opportunity because you weren't ready and you weren't prepared. You weren't listening. And opportunities come if you're not prepared to take those opportunities. If you're not paying it close attention to what's going on around you, you never know when those opportunities are going to come. Yeah. Because a 6-year-old, that's like $1 million, man. Getting, having that. And it was just like, if she had been paying attention, I would have had to really put my money where my mouth was. But I gambled on that. That was the principle I wanted to teach her at 6 years old. Was like, be in the moment. Don't just be about yourself. Don't just be about your self-focus, your self-interest, whatever. Be in the moment, because you can always learn something in the moment. Yeah. And you never know when there's going to be that nugget where there's going to be a trip to Disney World right around the corner.
A trip to Disney. She got $1,000 and a trip to Disney.
Yeah.
She could be cleaning house when she.
You get $1. That's her favorite thing is Dollar General, Dollar Tree. And it's like which we built in them. It's better than go to Target. And
that's right. That's right. One thing, man, I have some that kind of interlines with that as far as some of the things that I'm bringing up. Mark Evans. I hope you're listening to him, brother. I listen to him quite a bit, but he was saying that he met with one major developer in Miami, and one of the developers said, he's like, Mark, let me tell you something. He's like, you're gonna, essentially what he was saying, you miss 100% of the shots you don't take, right? Mm-hmm. And but one of the things he said, he's like, there's more opportunity missed in indecision, and there's more opportunity missed in indecision than decision. So I took that at like, if we're not paying attention, if we're not abreast at like being astute of like the opportunities at hand, we just got to make a decision. And then when we make a decision, we roll with it. Mm-hmm. And that's kind of where I think a lot of this conversation has circled around, is that there's more opportunity to be missed in our indecision than our decision. Yeah. And we just got to make a decision to, push forward.
Well, being vulnerable, man, it's like, for me, I last year was a rough year. Last 3 years have been real rough. Mm-hmm. But last year was rough. I had some deals. Every deal went south. Not every deal lost money, but every deal went south on time. Mm-hmm. And it caused a lot of stress, a lot of anxiety, a lot of pressure. We made it out alive, and we're better for it. But man, when you go through something like that, it's easy when you're starting and you're young. Mm-hmm. It's hard when you've lost more money than people. You know what I mean? You've lost a lot of money. Yeah, and you go, that was a real loss. That really. Wow. And then you get into the thing like, man, if those projects actually performed the way I predicted they would perform, man, imagine where it'd be right now. And my wife's always, don't ever think in that realm. And I'll tell you, man, the thing that I even struggle with now is getting back up again. Mm-hmm. Not being afraid, and because fear, you gotta come back to the plate. Mm-hmm. If you get hit, you see those dudes that get hit by just a fast, the pro players that get hit.
Oh, baseball?
In baseball, right? Oh, my gosh. Would you imagine getting back up to the plate after you just took one in the gut for you're going 90 miles an hour, 100 miles an hour? Fastball, yeah. I mean, those guys get up, and it's like the amount of motivation it takes to do that. That's very hard. Yeah. And I think a lot of people are in this season, they're going to be approaching that. Unfortunately, that there is a lot of people right now that are going to be gun shy, man. And it's how do you fight through it? How do you get back up when you just took a freaking freight train to the jaw? And how do you do that? And it's like, how do you not get paralysis through analysis, right? The age-old entrepreneurial quote, right? Yeah. Where you overanalyze something where it creates you to be paralyzed, and now there's no movement, there's no execution. Mm-hmm. And that's, I think if every entrepreneur is honest, execution's the hardest thing to accomplish. Mm-hmm. Executing it clean and consistently. Mm-hmm. That's one of the hardest things to do, and it's why you build systems. That's why people spend all this money trying to better themselves in that. But it's like when you get a hit, when you take a hit, man, it's not always easy to get back up again. And doing it the right way, like what John Maxwell was saying. Yeah, analyzing, and how do you find that proper balance?
Yeah.
And I think that's the dance that everyone has to be in, is like, man, how do I, but that's why community and stuff, like, I literally had no clue we were doing this. He just shows up in my office, we're hanging out, and he's like, hey, I need you to do this with me. So what are we doing? And so if I feel like if I look a little flustered, I'm trying to collect my thoughts, because I wasn't prepared.
That's what it's
kind of
about.
threw me on the spot.
I think improv is one of the best things. I think you've done a phenomenal job.
I love
man.
improv.
You've definitely thrown some really, really good nuggets in there. But I think the one thing good about like just being real and just coming into this, and it's not like my preparedness, right, is I listen to a lot of people, right? I absorb a lot of information, podcasts, just from various mentors, just getting a lot of information from people that are feeding my mind on a daily basis, that I can feed into. So it's, I think with that's preparedness coming into something like this. Right.
Mm-hmm.
And, I just, Follow Up Friday is what we like calling it. We'll do a lot of things. Thank you so much, Jeremy, for coming
my pleasure.
on. You've definitely dropped some like phenomenal nuggets in here. And, I think that, if you're going to take away anything, Jeremy does an amazing job at cultivating relationships and then building onto those relationships. And that's we call Follow Up Friday to put that. But then we've also put a lot of other nuggets in here. Thank you, Jeremy, for definitely sharing your story. Definitely glad we can come in here and talk. So with this is Reap the Harvest, man. Subscribe to me on Instagram at official Matt Tack. We have an official Facebook page too at Matt Tack. But thank you for listening in, and we love it. We love you, Pat, at the Acoustic Force, for always managing these efforts. And
we keep it moving. Thanks for coming on, Jeremy. Appreciate it, man. That was great stuff.
Thanks for having me,
brother. Have a good weekend.
On. You too, guys. Take it easy. Check out the replays on Spotify, iTunes, Apple, Google, wherever your favorite place to click on audio is as well. And we'll see you guys next time.
Do it to it. Love you guys. Peace.